Today on the show, I have the pleasure of speaking with a really good friend of mine, Vikram Raya. Now, Vikram is the Swiss Army knife when it comes to being a successful human. He is a trained cardiologist, functional medicine physician, high performance coach, and an avid real estate investor. And he's raised over $100 million in private equity from high net worth individuals across the countries, doctors and other professionals who are really looking to make their money work for them more and to diversify their investments. He is also the CEO of Viking Capital, a real estate investment group located in Washington, D.C. I'm really pumped and excited to have him on the show today. We've been friends for many, many years, but it's the first time he's been on this show. So big round of applause. G'day, Vikram. Welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
It's awesome to be here, Reed. Let's do this, man. Let's rock your audience.
Let's rock it. I was just, as I mentioned, we've been mates for a couple of years now. We've done deals together. I've spoken on your stage, but I haven't had you on the show. You're such a successful human that it's hard to track you down. You're just in Italy for a month. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on.
Yeah, it's when markets are in flux and there's concern, a lot of trepidation out there. Some people shrink. Me and you, we're smiling. We're getting excited because now that the seasonal players have left, the true players who've been in the grind for the last 7, 8, 9 years, we're smiling because there's opportunities to be had. And so I was like, let me get some little bit R&R. And I also, I teach a concept to a lot of my coaching clients. It's called the 5 freedoms, and we'll just start with that, and then we'll jump into what's ahead on the horizon. But Reed, I believe in, obviously financial freedom. That's what we're doing, the real estate thing. But on more than that, I would love to have time freedom, like literally do whatever I want when I want. Finally, location freedom, like I have a hard time finding you, man. I'm like, where in the world is Reed today? And I'm spinning the globe and throwing some darts there. And then it's the resilience that I've seen you exhibit, Reed. You've gone through, cycles and challenges and obstacles, and you're like a Mack truck. You just keep busting through, and that inspires me as well. So I love that bulletproof, resilient mindset you have. And the final thing is, when you're on stage, man, not only are people listening to your voice, but man, they're like, man, this guy's jacked. He's fit. He's physically, he's a surfer. He's ready to go. So that vitality freedom is what we're all looking for as well. So I think these things are what, if things are allowing me to go toward that, I say it's a hell yes. If things are taking me away from these freedoms, it's a no for me. And so I wanted to charge up my batteries. And so I wanted to test if I really had these freedoms. So I said, I'm going to disconnect from Viking, my real estate company, disconnect from my coaching company, and let my team run it. And me and my family are going to go and enjoy Italy world class. And it was awesome. We really had a great time. But now, look, it's time to get back to business. So, Reed, I know you're still crushing some deals. We are as well. And I think that, yes, interest rates are going up. Yes, there's an economic correction. Yes, there's uncertainty, but there's opportunities to be had.
100%. And there's a lot of things to unpack there. And one of the things that attracted me to you when we first met many years ago when we did the reserve deal, which was hands down the best deal I've ever done in my entire life, 5.5 cap in Austin. We won't get into it. but I've seen you grow in such a way that you've sort of kept pushing yourself. And we've had many discussions at your boot camps and at your conferences in and around how you've grown your team and how you become a better version of yourself, or everything through from health through to mindset and those 5 freedoms. But I want to rewind it a little bit, walk me through the early stages of Vikram and how you got to this point, because someone just tuning in right now be going, wow, a million miles an hour, Vikram's coming at me, all this energy. But you obviously weren't like that, right? You have a story behind you. You have an evolution that has got you to this point. So maybe walk the listeners through what that is and your background in medicine and how that's gotten to where you are today.
So my parents and we came from India, at a very young age. And then when I got here, my parents really had to work their tail off. And, dad was an engineer. Mom just was more of a housewife, but then she, had some small jobs. And money, for whatever reason, caused a lot of discord in our family. There was a ton of discussion around money, how much of it, like the scarcity, the lack of money. And my dad wanted to be sort of an entrepreneur, but he was stuck in a W-2. My mom was really risk averse, and that just boded for like huge arguments and concern. And I remember listening to this, and I'm like, man, I want to figure out this thing called money, because it's obviously causing a lot of problems if you don't. And as I went through my training and figuring out things, we had so many people in my family have heart attacks. I'm like, oh, well, let me study that as well, because that's important. And so I became a cardiologist. And while I was training in cardiology, I was in Milwaukee, and I was like, trying to sort of frustrate the fact that I'm seeing all my friends around me, they're investment bankers, they're all successful consultants, management consultants, they're doing all this stuff. And I'm still like, $30,000 a year, struggling. And I was like, man, I need to figure out how to make some extra money on the side. And so, no, I moonlighted, which is just essentially, doing odd jobs as a physician outside of your main career. But then I had an idea. I was like, I found this like long-term like care facility, and they were looking for a lot of doctors, and they didn't know where to find them. I'm like, dude, I know a lot of doctors who are looking for positions. I'm like, why don't I do this? So I secured a contract with my company, which I figured out how to create an LLC. I created a company. I said, okay, I will provide you all the doctors you need, and here's my fee for each doctor I bring. And so that was the first company I ever started, and it was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And the cool thing was 3 years later, when I finished training, I had to leave. I sold my contract to another young doctor, and he paid for it. I'm like, whoa, there's something to this thing. And so that's what I realized, like, your brain can create more riches than the amount of hours you work.
How much of that upbringing made you move away from that pain? Like I grew up in a pretty middle class family as well, both high school teachers. Money it felt like there wasn't a lot of it, right? Secondhand cars growing up, yes. Just buying secondhand clothing. And not that we were struggling, so to speak, but you right. had that sense of like, yeah, we weren't the wealthiest guys.
You have to be cautious. And then
right.
they would talk about people like, oh, look at them, they're wealthy.
Right.
Look at those guys. Look at those. You need to be like that. You need to work hard. You need to study. You need to go to school and be and then it's like, it does make an impression. It sounds like it made an impression on you, Reed. It made an impression on me. It felt like, there's a certain thing you had to do to achieve certain kind of wealth. And I don't think that was the wealth code I cracked. It was really reading the books like you've read, the Kiyosaki's, the Richest Man in Babylon's, these kind of books, and the self-development. That's what really started unlocking my mind. And then I had to learn to think differently in order to become different. And the doctors I know, the only way they know how to make more money is kill themselves in the hospital or kill themselves in the clinics. And then, and some doctors started doing things that were not kosher and just to increase their income, And at that point, I drew a line in the sand. Like, look, I'm going to earn my income outside of medicine, and I want to practice medicine because for the love of the game, for the passion. And once I made that decision, then I was on a search. I was on a search for the Holy Grail, and I tried options trading. I got my ass handed to me, and then I was like, all right, what else? I'm like, well, I know a lot of not smart people who've crushed in real estate. I'm like, okay, I'm a pretty smart guy. I went to medical school. I can figure this out. So that's where I dove in, and I tried single family investing, and I did some fix and flips, and I did that with my dad, and it made sense. But then I was like, this is still like, I'm not going to really be able to retire from a couple of single family homes. And so what's the next step? And I heard this guy speak about something called syndications and multifamily, and I thought it was illegal first, because I was like, dude, I've never heard of anyone talking about this stuff. And this was in 2015, 2014, where, now you run into a syndicator on every doorstep now. So, but it was sort of new back then, and right. Definitely no one of a proper profession was doing it, And so that seed stuck. And then once I sort of sort of maxed out my capabilities of the single family thing, I switched over to that. And everyone was telling me, don't tell anyone you do real estate. Don't tell anyone you're a doctor. Don't use what you are in what you're trying to do. You have to keep everything separate. And it was not until I realized, look, that's why would I take my advantage and put it away, you know? And so once I realized as a physician, I can harness other physicians and bring them to the investments I'm doing, that's when the whole enchilada opened up, the Pandora's box opened up.
And how much assets under management do you have today with Viking Capital?
We have 650 million.
That's awesome.
Of transactions we've done. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, it's a great indication of how you can apply yourself. And I can already feel the energy through the camera. And every time I'm around you, I can feel that energy, that can-do attitude. But I could also imagine coming from an Indian background, you know, very much traditional of like go to school, get a job, that when you started going down this other path that people were like, what is he doing? Like, you're a physician, man. Like just stick to your lane and don't rock the boat, so to speak. Was there any of that type of chat going on back when we get started?
You know, I was on a recent podcast and someone asked me that question, and you know, it made me pause and reflect, Reed, because I was like, oh, okay. Well, first my wife was like, "Are you sure? Does this make sense?" But she was supportive, and then my dad always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but he had to provide for the family, and so it's usually the first generation that makes the opportunities for the second generation. So I have to thank my dad for that. So he allowed me to, you know, do things that were probably his dreams as well. But that being said, the person that really was upset was my mom. She's like, her whole dream was for me to be a doctor. And then more than that, a cardiologist. Oh my God, a cardiologist is great. And then I'm like, Mom, starting to move on into a different direction. She's like, oh, that's risky. That's crazy. What are you doing? Like, you're making good money. You got, you know, and then, but I'll tell you who really called me out. It's my colleagues, my peers, other physicians thought I was ludicrous. I thought I was crazy. They were trying to fill my head with all this negativity, concern, question, and I think it happens in any person's career. When you're in one career and you're trying to pivot into another, there's always this inertia and this like resistance you get from everyone around you.
No, and I think it's a little bit of jealousy, right? Because you're taking that action of pushing yourself to do more and be more, and they're like, well, "Why are you doing that? Either take me with you, or I'm going to, burn your boat. I'm going to burn your boat for you because I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay with me in this what I think is the best spot in life." But that's incredible. But now let's pivot into what you said earlier, which I thought was kind of really the love for the game. You clearly are a physician at heart, and you do love everything about being with health, mindset, or meditation, all that sort of stuff. So to now talk about how you've pivoted and you've got Limitless MD, you have your coaching business. How has that evolved for you as an entrepreneur, continuing to be curious about different things as you start creating and going down this path of entrepreneurship?
So when I was out in Italy, I picked up Walter Isaacson's Leonardo da Vinci. And I was reading the book, in Florence, and I was just really, I felt like in vogue with these Renaissance guys. And I was like, Reed, you have so many freaking skill sets. A lot of our friends that we know, like, Dan Hansard, I mean, that guy. So we have so many friends that are like actually good at multiple skills. And so I think it's okay to do this, but you have to do it in the right way. So what I realized is you need sequential successes, and then you have to bring in systems and teams. And once you hit a certain threshold, then you can take on another role, another task, another thing. We ended up seeing Richard Branson's house in Lake Como, and I'm like, Richard Branson has 500 companies. I think I can figure out how to run 2 or 3. Right.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do things that are in alignment. So the easiest thing is find things that are complementary, right? So like, it's like, hey, you own a apartment investment company. maybe a property management company could potentially be a synergistic combination, right? And then maybe you'll have a company that does debt or something, whatever. So that's one way to think about things. The other thing is your passions. I love health and wellness. And I started, after I became a cardiologist, I studied something called functional integrative medicine to figure out how to reverse disease. And that was like a complementary second business I started. Then I was like, hey, I want to help doctors and other high professionals earn money in real estate. And so I did that. But the connection was, I'm a doctor and I'm helping similar folks doing that. Then I'm like, I want to help doctors now in life, in business and success. And so I'm like, so there's a connect, there's a golden thread, if you will. So Reed, figure out, I would ask your listeners, when they have multiple interests and multiple passions, figure out, use two frameworks. One is ELF, one is HALF. ELF means easy, lucrative, and fun. Go toward things that it's effortless for you. That's effort for others. Go to things that are going to make you money without you having to actually work that hard, because you love what you're doing and you're good at it. And avoid things that are hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. And what I realized was, like, yeah, being a traditional doctor was sort of half for me. It was hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating in the sense that it didn't, for the amount of hours I was putting in, I was not getting what I deserve, And so I'm putting in a fraction of the hours now in real estate, and I'm like, we're crushing it, me and you, right? So, and it allows me to have the free time then to pursue other passions and interests, which are also, lucrative and easy and fun. And so that's the name of the game, to be of service to the most amount of people and create enough income because you've created enough value for others, and essentially a rising tide raises all boats. And that's why I'm trying to not only help myself, help my tenants, help my community, help doctors, help physicians, help my coaching clients, and then just pay it forward.
When will be enough for you?
I already have enough like 5 years ago. I mean, in the sense, I'm not necessarily like the wealthiest person in the world. I feel wealthy because of what I do, and the people I'm around. Like, I get to talk to people like you, on a daily basis. I go to conferences, and it's fun for me. I get to travel. I'm posting stuff on Instagram that I think will help people. I read books all the time, and I know the books I'm reading will actually help my business, my mindset, others. Both me and you are very into charity. We do philanthropic work, and it's like everything we're doing is sort of it's a pleasure and it's a gift. And so I guess it's more about how much more can I squeeze out of me versus how much is enough.
Right. No, it's a good, because the outsider would think, and I know this because I'm shiny object syndrome all the bloody time, right? Like and you get so distracted with so many things, and I see you as a guy that has that curiosity all the time. You want to keep scratching and keep giving, and I think that helps you propel forward. And the book Who Not How, figuring out who you need to bring on board to help you go off and do things that you are passionate about. You can give back to more people. You can reach a wider audience. So I think that takes a certain type of person, but I also understand how hard it is to build the empire, so to speak. So I guess what has been some of the struggles as you've been building this over the years? Because we all can talk about success. Success is great. Everyone's like, yeah, great success. But what have been actually some of the struggles that you've found building Viking, building Limitless, building your coaching business? What has it been?
The perceived limits, the perceived ceilings that we all have. And these plateaus, they're not plateaus initially. You think of them as ceilings. And then once you burst through them, then you're like, oh, that was just a plateau. So I'm a visionary, and sounds like you're one of those unicorns. You're probably a visionary integrator. You can do both, probably. I don't know. I don't know what you are. You're probably both, aren't you?
I am. I've done the DISC score, and I am, but I need to go into my more visionary role and let someone else do the integration.
So I can be an integrator, but I don't think I'm the best integrator. And it was really realizing these terms, these terminologies, and realizing there's patterns of business, there's patterns of success, right? Exactly. And it's figuring out what you're good at, what your personality is about, your skills, and then finding others who can help you in your mission and vision, in life. And so thankfully I found Ravi in Viking, and now I found another amazing doctor named Ankit, who's a anesthesiologist at Duke. And so he's come in my coaching business, but he also is working now that we're having a lot more physicians joining Viking. He's now the physician investor liaison for them now. So it's like, it's a beautiful thing that now I have team members who are amazing. I found like a marketing guy who's like, he's like everything he touched turns to gold. And so, but we've had to go through so much pain to find people like that. And sometimes everything's going great, and then you say shiny object syndrome. So if you're not evolving, you're decaying. Mm-hmm. And so what I realized was I have to keep testing and pushing and moving forward. But as I do that, sometimes I break things. And so I broke Viking for about a couple of months, and we're like, oh, no investors, like what's going on? Or like our deals are not like, I mean, there's some resistance. I didn't know what it was. And then you have to just persevere.
Talk to me about that. What happened? How did it go? How did that come about? What was the sort of looking back? What happened?
It's not having a pulse on your coaches, on your clients, not having a pulse on your investors. It's acting based on your thinking versus getting feedback from your tribe. And what I realized, like one of the things, like we have this amazing fund that we're launching. It's called the Viking Wealth Fund, and we have 2 deals in it. We just are about to close on our 3rd, and it's a great fund, and it's almost filled up. But what we've realized is our investors love this for sure, but they actually still love the single asset deals, and we're going to go back to that single asset because that's what they like. So I mean, the fund is there, and we may do another fund too, but we're not going to let go of the single assets, which initially was our thought process. And the reason is we have so much investor feedback saying, hey, we want the single assets. And so this is where if I had listened to my investor in the first place, maybe I would have done things a little differently. I don't know. So it's these are the kind of things. Also, we went to a different marketing company based on extensive research, and they promised the moon, and we're like, all right, let's go. And then they fell flat on their face. And a delay in marketing in our field is, can be potentially life threatening in multifamily, because really we're at the stage where our whole country, the whole United States is our investor base, and so we have to be being in front of them, reaching out to them, educating them, empowering them, inviting them in, and then asking them to join our tribe, if you will. So and then we switched also going from one investor platform, our portal for our investors, to another one. And then we essentially did about 6 different changes all at once at Viking, and in a 90-day span, and it was and we also had a personnel change. So it was a lot of stress, and I was questioning a lot of things, but you just have to put out the fires. You just have to reassess. You have to use all the books you've read and extract the knowledge instead of just reading them, apply them. And then you reach out to your mentors and your colleagues, and then you're like, you know what, we can figure this out. And we did. And now we're actually stronger than we ever were. So it's these scars, these battle scars, give you the courage to, actually be more successful than you ever could be.
It's so interesting when you probably know and talk a lot about with your coaching and probably Limitless MD, your alignment, right? And it's not until you go through an alignment shift. I've had a different alignment shift recently, which you personally know about, that you realize you were never in the right alignment from the beginning, because you maybe back when you made the decision, you thought that was the easy decision because yes, that marketing company is going to knock it out of the park and it's easy, and they fell flat on their face. And it sort of was like if you really, really thought about it, maybe that wasn't the most in alignment with what you wanted to achieve, and bringing that maybe more in-house and talking more to your investors and understanding where the rub is versus a fund versus individual assets was all the answers you needed to push you on another direction and chart another course with a different team member. And it's hard and it's challenging to have that mirror in front of your face. but you need sometimes to go through those things in order to go off and be better, like what you're doing now, and start breaking that ceiling, which you just mentioned earlier. You didn't mention it was ceiling; it was more of a plateau. So, I've admired a lot of your work that you've done over the last 8-9 years. That we haven't known each other 8-9 years, but we've known each other since probably 2018, the last 3 or 4 years. So seeing you grow and then continue to have the hunger to build other businesses is extremely influential. So well done. You've definitely been an influence on my life. Where's the business going in the next couple of years? What's the sort of the big picture now? Do you have one, or is it just more picking up the pieces as you go and figuring it out year on year?
Yeah, I think the more clarity I think your listeners have, the more power they have, and clarity is also kindness, and that's a new one I've heard. So what that means is if you have a clear vision, then you're going to have buy-in and alignment from your team as well, because they want to know exactly, like, if people have clarity, then they can accelerate toward those goals. And so we do an annual goal setting thing. Actually, I want to recommend a resource to all of your listeners right now. There's something called Lifebook. It's everyone does goal setting, but this guy named John Butcher really takes it to the next level. He essentially has isolated 12 main categories most people have in their life, and he takes you through a process where you clearly identify, sort of your belief systems, your vision, and sort of the strategy to achieve that vision. And he wants you to, like, it's almost like, think about it as a vision board meets Cameron, I forgot his name. He wrote the book Vivid Vision, where you describe it in so beautiful detail with like Tony Robbins' like massive action plan, all in one thing. And so I'm going through that right now, but something like that. It doesn't have to be as formalized as I just mentioned, but doing that consistently, what happens is your subconscious brain then connects with your present, your prefrontal cortex, and you're sort of drawn toward this destination that you've sort of pinned and sort of created in your mind only. And so my goal for Viking is essentially, we want to hit, obviously, there's a holy grail in multifamily, the 10,000 doors, obviously. So I used to think that was the end goal. And now the more and more I talk about with my mentors, they're like, oh, that's when you get started. and so I think it's a good goal. It's great. I would like to take Limitless MD to become the number one coaching platform for physicians worldwide.
Wow.
And then I would like to take a piece of book from there's a couple of people I admire, Tom Bilyeu, a guy named Alex Hormozi, Grant Cardone. And one of the things I notice is people stop buying assets, stop buying real estate. They start buying companies. And so I'm thinking I would love to get equity in multiple companies that I have like a passion or interest in, like something that I really care about, and help them succeed and grow. And I don't want salary or money. I just want equity. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm thinking, over time. And, maybe you can just invest your own money, like a venture capital or something like that. But instead of that, I would love for my services of them being sort of on their board and, helping them succeed, maybe get equity. And so create a portfolio of companies that are in alignment with my values.
Yep. No, it's funny you say that, because I've also got to that stage where I'm looking 10 years around the corner, and I see exactly the same thing. Like, there's obviously building the empire of the multifamily assets under management, but there's also other asset classes. And then there's also interests outside of real estate in businesses that you can continue growing that, ecosystem of businesses, right? Because you then also reduce risk for yourself and your personal family's finances, but it also helps you scratch an itch that you want to be surrounded in these companies that are doing good for the world or in your alignment. So awesome stuff, mate. I know you've got some incredible things coming down the road. I can't wait to see you continue to flourish and step into the person I know you're meant to be. But with that being said, we do like to round out the show with the top 5 investing tips. You ready to get into it?
Let's do it, man.
Mate, maybe the number one habit you practice to keep on track towards your goals.
It's called magic time. Magic time is essentially do the opposite of what everyone says. Stop doing the morning routine and do the anti-morning routine. So the anti-morning routine is you drink water and you get to work. And literally you spend the first 30 minutes of your day before your meditation, your journaling, your one finger push-ups, and you're actually doing meaningful work on your number one goal for that year. And we call this NUI time, not urgent but important time. And if you just do this one activity, it will literally change your year this year or your next 90 days. So my morning time right now is worked on that life book. So I'm literally creating that life book every morning because it's 12 different categories. It's pretty extensive. So that's what I'm doing like right now. And then if it's not that, then I'll work on something else. But something where it's like it's the goal, the big goal I'm going after. It's like you chunk it down into mini segments and you chip away at it, and you do it first thing. They say eat that frog, right? If you have to eat something, you have to do something unpleasant. Might as well do the most unpleasant thing first. And Tim Ferriss says this: make a list of 5 things that scare you or you're procrastinating upon, and then go tackle the worst one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I love it. Question number 2 is: who's the most influential person in your career to date?
I want all your listeners to look up this guy, Alex Hormozi. He wrote a book called $100 Million Offers. This guy is phenomenal. He has a company called acquisitions.com. He made his money in doing gym turnarounds, and then he's become a coach and an entrepreneur. But then he's created this thing called acquisitions.com, where literally he's giving all his knowledge and education away for free. And so he has all his channels you want to catch in on. But the cool thing is, if you hit the $5 million mark, he wants to then help your company go to the $50 or $100 million mark. And I don't know, the guy is just amazing. And I love the fact that everything he's giving for free is so valuable. And so I'm drinking everything he's saying right now.
Awesome. Alex Hormozi, right?
Hormozi.
Awesome stuff. Question number 3 is: what's the most influential tool in your business? So it could be a tool like a physical tool, phone, journal, that you can't run the business without, or it could be a piece of software. What is it?
It's right behind you to your left. EOS traction. And a lot of people number 1, go ahead and read the book. And if you don't choose traction, choose eMyth. If you don't choose eMyth, choose Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. I don't care what you choose. There's something called 12-week year. Choose a business system, operating system for your company. Number 2, if you're going to do it, go all the way. Don't be half-assed at it, because we were reading traction. We had it on our shelf for years, but it was not until I hired actual official implementer to come into our company that boom, things really started happening.
And shaking up by the sounds of it as well. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Question number 4: in one sentence, what's been the biggest failure in your career, and what did you learn from that failure?
A lot of failures. One of the biggest ones was during the COVID crisis, the pandemic. I had sort of left cardiology. I was running this really cutting edge cardiometabolic clinic, reversing disease, in a physical location. I was trying to run Viking Capital as well. And I was early stages of this coaching business. And one, I was really over leveraged with too many activities all at once. Simultaneous activity is a killer to success. Sequential building of companies works, not simultaneous. Number 2, I thought I was meant to be a doctor for the rest of my life, and that was my identity. And it was when your identity becomes a prisoner versus a sculptor is when you're in trouble. So I realized that I am Vikram Raya and I can do all these things, and being a doctor is just one of the many things I can do. And is by letting go of being just a doctor, which it is a big deal for a lot of folks, but it allowed me to embrace these new identities, and then I exploded all my other companies.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Mate, last question. Where can people reach you to continue the conversation? That will be in your sphere. Where do they go?
Yeah, absolutely. I have my personal website, vikramraya.com. I have tons of free resources and great information on there. Please join me there. And then if you're interested in learning about investing and multifamily and growing your wealth, vikingmultifamily.com.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, I want to thank you for jumping on the show today. I just want to reflect some of the things that I took away from today's conversation. I think sequential success, I think that is an underlying theme that so many people like yourself, everyone has shiny objects being an entrepreneur, but you do it sequentially, right? You're not just going out and scattershotting it all and trying to do everything at once. You're doing it once you build success in one region, you're then moving on to the success in the second region and then a third region. I think that is very, very key. Also, how you've been able to, I think personally, adapt yourself away from just being the doctor, right? Away from being what your mum wanted you to do or what your former colleagues want you to do, and you went into being the better version of yourself. And I think, again, as a personal friend of yours, seeing you grow and seeing all the success you have, I just applaud you for what you're doing, because you are challenging yourself in so many awesome ways to then serve others. And then I love the elf and the half: easy, lucrative, fun, hard, annoying, lame, frustrated. So awesome stuff, mate. Did I leave anything out?
That's awesome, brother. No, you're a keen memory, man. Is it a memory like a kangaroo? I don't know. What's the animal out there?
It's dexterity of a hand, and I'm writing it all down, mate. So I've got my cheat sheet here. But awesome, brother. Look, thank you for jumping on the Today's Show. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up very, very soon.
All right, man. Cheers.
Well, there you have another cracking episode jam-packed with some incredible advice from Vikram Raya. Remember, head over to vikramraya.com to check out everything that he is doing. He's a man you need to be around. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. He's on Instagram, he's on LinkedIn, he's on Facebook, he's probably on TikTok. I can see that he probably dances a little bit. But definitely go check him out. I want to thank you all for taking some time out of your day to tune in to continue to grow your financial IQ. That's what we're all about here on this show. We're going to do it all again next week. So remember, be bold, be brave, and go give life a crack.